Hey guys, welcome back to Accursed Brew. My name is Azriel, and as usual, I'm joined here today by my boy Anthony.
What's up?
And we're laughing because we ran through this a couple times now. It's
Yeah,
tough.
we don't know what we're doing anymore.
Yeah, dude, it's falling apart so quick.
Yeah, we completely lost our mojo. So this is gonna be our worst video to date. Enjoy, fuckers.
Yeah. But yeah, today Anthony and I are gonna have a conversation about the recently released Gothic 1 remake demo, which you can find in the description down below. Now, just to kind of set the stage real quick about my experience with Gothic and then kind of where I'm at today is I did play this a couple decades ago, but to be honest, I was a kid and I was dumb. I played simple games like Pokemon, so like jumping into something like this, especially with the crazy controls that they had, was very foreign to me. Didn't get very far. Gave up pretty quick. And then having played the demo, I then pivoted into watching a couple videos about Gothic 1 to refresh my memory. But it just reminded me of how difficult of a time that game was. But I'm curious, Anthony, what is your experience with the first one? And then sort of what you thought about the demo and things like that. I'm really curious to hear how you felt.
Yeah, so pretty much like the exact same as you. I played it when I was about 7-8 years old. It came out in 2001. So it was I didn't really know what I was doing, but I thought it looked cool. It probably had a cool box, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
That's how I bought games when I was a kid. I would be like, I like this one. And I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what was going on. I hadn't tried it again as an adult until literally like an hour before we record this, because we did the Gothic remake demo a couple days ago when it came out on the 24th. I believe this video is coming out on the 28th, so it just came out recently. You may have a little bit of a different experience because I do believe there's already been a patch to it already. Because when we first downloaded it at noon when it came out, it was not running well at all. And then like I gave it 3 hours and I think things got fixed. I don't know. But I played like an hour of it earlier and my 31-year-old self could not get it to work and figure out the controls at all. It's no mouse buttons or anything. Yeah, you can turn with the mouse. It's all keyboard, arrows, like arrows on the right hand side, delete and page down for strafe, control alt space. It's very 2001. And I was hoping that, that's kind of how I remembered it, the original Gothic, it being very difficult to control and not, but I thought it was just because I was a kid.
Yeah.
No, it's just tough. Maybe if I gave it 20 hours and really locked in and learned how to do it, but I'm not going to do that. I had a lot of the same issues with this demo, to be honest. The controls were pretty rough. There are no key binding changes. You can't change the key bindings at all. You just got to deal with what it is. Now, this may be different in the full game when it comes out. Obviously, this is just a demo, a little preview kind of thing that they're doing, a prologue. But yeah, I think I'm going to have a tough time with this game.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. It definitely didn't feel really good to play, and I can't help but feel this is on Unreal 5 too, I believe. So it's not like they don't have a lot of pre-baked controls in it, a lot of pre-baked settings and things like that. I feel like you're almost going out of your way to make it feel reminiscent of the original, but still kind of have like more of a modern take. With, like you said, the ability to actually click with your mouse, unlike in the past one, you couldn't. Which again, 2001, so understandable. But I don't know if going for such a faithful recreation is the right idea. It definitely, I don't know, it feels dated by 2025 standards, to be quite honest. From a developer like THQ. I know the studio is relatively new. This is going to be the first game that they've done, which, that's awesome to see, like a brand new studio kind of like trying their hand at something. I just think maybe a less of a faithful recreation would have been better here. Because again, like it just didn't really control that well. I mean, I couldn't even change half the sound settings at all. There was bugginess in the menus. Like it was a little weird. But again, we played it like hours after it released on Steam, so those things may change by the time this video comes out. Yeah, exactly. And like you said, man, when I first booted it up, it ran terrible. Regardless of the settings that I put it on, a couple hours later, it ran a hell of a lot better.
I mean, for Christ's sake, the minimum specs required on Steam for this is, I'm scrolling down right now, an i7 7700K or an AMD Ryzen 5 1600X and They're asking for an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2070
That's
for
quite a lot,
minimum
man.
system requirements. And the game, I will be honest, the game does look good. You were running it at high or Gothic settings, whatever the second
Yeah,
highest
Gothic.
setting was. And it looked very nice. It obviously had a little. I would compare it honestly to the original, not Crusader Kings, Kingdom Come Deliverance, where it definitely has that double A feel for like the direction of the game, such as like cutscenes and conversation scenes, where it cuts between characters kind of roughly and rigidly. But again, these things may be smoothed out. It feels double A to me, but it's a fucking. It's a power drain on your system. My machine was screaming the whole time I was playing, and I was playing on like medium.
Yeah, definitely it chugs for sure. Even on something like even on the computer that I have, it chugged pretty hard. But yeah, just to get kind of like a little bit more into the demo, like the sort of what you're actually doing in it, right? This takes place. It's a prequel to the original Gothic 1. Just kind of taking place right before the nameless hero sort of sets his way in here. Now, the character that you're playing as is in the original game. He's one of the people in that initial camp that you come across that steals. I forgot what he steals. He steals something, but he's in that game, and that's who you're playing as initially. Just kind of going through the very basics of learning how to combat, what the sort of like skill upgrades look like, where you talk to someone, they teach you how to use it a little bit better, like your sword a little bit better, and then you change your stance, things like that. Super quick, just A to B. You get a bow. They teach you how to cook. You get to fight a couple monsters and one little goblino. There's a bit of questing in it as well. But to be honest, you know, it's going to be hard to kind of say all of that, but not blanket it with the fact that it feels very like double A, very old school, very like, you know, not necessarily super refined. Again, it's a demo, so like maybe a lot of that stuff's going to get fixed up. But
You know,
I would
something-
imagine.
Sorry to interrupt. But something just came to mind before we move on. I want to point out. I feel like what this demo is what publishers used to bring to E3 for journalists, like a quick 40-minute slice of the game that's introducing you to the world, the mechanics, and then you got to go because we got more people in line. That's what this demo felt like to me. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but it does feel, even though they're saying the release date's 2025, this demo makes it feel like it's not going to be ready till 2027. Like, it has a long way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to jump into, is the fact that if it's coming out this year and this is their demo, I hope to God this is a super old build or just like a really extensive patch hit after they created this particular build that they used in the demo. Because it doesn't feel ready for release. It feels like we're still quite a ways away. And to be honest, you know what? Your take on the E3 part, I think, is actually sounds really true. You know, it seems like this is the type of thing that if somebody who sat down and ran through the demo a couple times and knew exactly what path to take, who to talk to, you know, they have like a checklist of items that they had to run through. This feels like that. It feels like you got your checklist, you run through A to B, hitting every single point that you need to and not really wandering around. And it would probably have looked really good visually. But then again, like as you actually sit down and play and left click and block and use your Q and E to attack and your, you know, control and alt to dodge and whatnot, you just start to get like a really weird feel for the game. And it just becomes, I don't know, it shows its age. It's just weird to say it shows its age when it's 2025. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little strange. I will say it's.
I do.
Oh, you're going.
I was going to say, I think we're about to say the exact same thing. I do feel like we're sounding very critical about it, but I think both you and I have the opinion that there's a lot of potential there, and if these things that we're talking about are fixed, which all of these can be, if they add, honestly, all they need to do for me to be happy with this is add controller support and rebindable keys.
Yeah, that
would fix like 99% of my issues with the game, because I don't really care if the cutscenes look a little janky. I was just pointing it out because it looks a little raw in AA, but I don't really care about that. If the game's good, I like the world, I'm interested in the story, I'll still play it, just like the original Kingdom Come. But we're being hypercritical because we played a build that was very rough, and I feel like it's important to voice these concerns so possibly the developers do see this and take into account like what people are saying.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's something where it's hard to not be critical of it because this is what we're playing. when in reality, I do feel like we might have a more favorable opinion of this in full release. But it's like, this is the experience that we're having. You know, like I don't want to be dishonest to my experience and just kind of like, you know, be like, oh, okay, well, they're a newer dev, so I'm gonna like be super lax. Like, I mean, this is the experience I had. You know, this is what I'm going through.
Yeah, these are things that they need to know.
Yeah, exactly. But I will admit, this is the kind of game that genuinely needs to get made. I love fantasy. I'm huge into fantasy, but I'm the tried and true fantasy of like elves, dwarves, humans, you know, blah blah blah. There's orcs, there's this and that. It's getting kind of played out at this point, to be quite honest. And sort of pivoting more into this, into the world that Gothic takes place in.
Super dark fantasy.
Yeah, like it's cool to just see a change of pace. You know what I'm saying? Like that to me is like important. Like again, like I love fantasy, and they can keep cranking out the same old, and I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna give stuff a 9 out of 10, 80 hours in it, but this is nice that it's different.
Yes, like going from Avowed to this, it's a completely different vibe. I think I would have to. I'm probably wrong on this because there's like 5 different things. I always get them mixed up. I think what you would call this is grimdark fantasy.
I'm honestly
Does that sound?
I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah. I think that's what you would call it, where it's like very dark, gritty. There's cultists and evil gods and you know, kind of like the Act 3 of Baldur's Gate is the vibe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm reading right now. It's saying it's a medieval fuck, I can't even say the words. It's a medieval fantasy, is what I'm reading.
Wrong. It's not medieval fantasy. There's fucking goblins and orcs.
I don't see it. I mean, maybe this is like the Germans' interpretation of like a medieval fantasy.
Possibly.
But yeah, I'm not necessarily seeing it. But yeah, I don't know. Like we were saying, it's something that's cool. It needs to be made. It needs to be different. I have high hope. Why I want to say I have high hopes for it, but I have I'm hoping for the best. Is where I'm at right now. I definitely think that they, you know, they're not far away from putting out a good product. Like, to be quite honest, like they're pretty much there. There's just some like little things that they really need to iterate on. I don't necessarily mind a game being a little quirky in this way or that way, given the combat, the way some of the things flow. But there's just like a bit of fluidity that isn't there when you're in the inventory, when you're kind of just like moving your character around. If you play the demo, just like walk left to right, like kind of quick, and like your character's just kind of like tilting very heavily left to right.
I will say, I did the exact same thing in Gothic 1. And it looked the exact same. It was pretty funny. I don't know if maybe they were doing that as like a throwback, because that's the exact same motion the character did in Gothic 1.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, this feels like it's a very true interpretation with just like a little bit of things to kind of like keep it somewhat in the modern era. The fact that you can use your mouse, like what you would typically use a mouse for.
You could tell the people who made this game, at least like at the director level and people making the decisions, or the original Gothic is probably their favorite game of all time. Like it's a true love letter to Gothic.
Yeah, I think that's one thing you can give them credit for. Like if we're trying to sit here and see and say whether or not they're creating a true Gothic remake, they're doing the truest remakes that like you could do. Like, this is what this is. For better or for worse, they're sticking to it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like I said, I hope it comes out well. I definitely want to check out the game when it full releases, which they say is sometime in 2025. So I'm excited for that. But at least so far, what I've played definitely could use a little bit of work, or quite a bit of work, honestly. But no, I mean, it's interesting stuff, man. And so, like, just to kind of wrap it up, I'm pumped for it, but I'm hesitant, to say the least.
I'm very glad it's getting made, like you were saying. But yeah, I have the same exact concerns as you. I think there's a long way to go. However, I don't think it's going to be that hard to fix. I think they may need more time than 2025, but I think it is very, like, they could make this game fucking awesome if they just do a little bit of tweaking.
Yeah, exactly. It's not much. They're close. I will say they're very close. It's just, I'm curious to see if the last bit of dev time that they're devoting to this is going towards that, or what exactly it is. I'm curious when this build was made.
You also looked on their website and you saw there was a ton of positions that they were hiring for. So they're expanding the team a lot right now.
Yeah, which is good to see. You know what's nice about that is that although they're a small studio, I mean, honestly, I don't know how many people are there, so maybe this is just like bare minimum to get off the floor. It could be, but I'm hoping
proof of concept type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm hoping more so that this is them. This is THQ kind of like letting them get their footing and like really build their team out. Maybe the higher ups at THQ Nordic are like kind of happy with what they're seeing, which bodes well. But again, I don't know if this is like bare minimum staff they're looking to get or if they're looking to expand on staff. I'm not too sure, but there were quite a few listings on there. But yeah, no, I'm excited to see, man, what they get up to. Do you have any final thoughts on this you want to throw out there before we wrap it up?
I do. So grimdark is considered a subgenre of dark fantasy that is specifically characterized by a bleak, nihilistic tone, gritty realism, and morally gray characters, often with a sense of hopelessness, whereas dark fantasy encompasses a broader range with dark themes without being as bleak or cynical. So I would definitely categorize this as grimdark because it's a shitty, horrible world, and I love it.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely doesn't feel medieval. Like
no, I think
KCD is medieval. Like
yes,
this might be a play on medieval, but I would say, like you said, grimdark definitely fits more. Yeah, I definitely think that's the case.
But yeah, I think that's it. I just wanted to I wanted to look that up because I knew people in the comments would be like, actually, it's technically grimdark light. So I don't care. But try out the demo. It's free. There's, I would say be easy on it, but it's only a 40-minute run. It's like 10 gigs. You can delete it right after you're done. It's definitely worth a try. And then they also, at the very end of the demo, they give you a nice little QR code where you could send feedback directly to the devs, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to see that, and I'd love to see them hear that advice, listen to it, and then improve on it. I think that's going to be important. But like you said, it doesn't ask very much of you. This demo does. It's definitely something you could easily do if you have any sort of interest in this or in what old school RPGs look like in the modern day, quote unquote. But with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys thought about this. Like the video if you guys enjoyed it. And subscribe to the channel for further conversations about first impressions, things like that. We have a lot of stuff we're cooking up here. The next couple months are going to be very exciting. So I hope you guys join us along the way. And I love you guys. I hope you love them too, Anthony.
I love you.
Bye.
Bye.